Hi guys, welcome to the channel. Here's KJ, and I wanted to share some thoughts about God of War Ragnarok, especially when it comes to the story. Uh, as I was thinking about it, I was thinking about the stories. I was reading some comments on Facebook. I was reading some comments on social media, and following the reviews and watching reviews from content creators here on YouTube. And I've come to the conclusion that Kratos as a character, it's obviously after playing the game, but Kratos as a character is dead. Like, literally. They have managed to, with this game, to destroy the character of Kratos completely. I know this may go against the current trend to think of Kratos as evolved. Since he has become a father, he is now he resents his violent ways, and as the Sisters of Fate of this game have said, he kills gods, but he feels sad about it, right? Which is, I think it's like an interesting joke that the game plays on itself by saying, "Hey, we know the guy is sad now, but he still kills gods." Um, which it doesn't get anywhere near what he did in God of War 3, right? I mean, he doesn't kill that many gods. Actually, he kills only Heimdall. That's spoiler alert, fellas. And he doesn't even kill Odin. That's the point. It's that Sindri does. Uh, so basically, you can't hold that against Kratos, so to speak. But I do believe that the approach that they took with the character was done because of the writing, because of the writers. The writers are simply, some of the worst writers that you can find nowadays. It's almost like you went to Netflix and you said, "Hey, come on, send me any poor writers you have to write my game. I want you to completely, I want you to completely change this guy. Change this guy from like an anti-hero, or change this guy from a villain, whatever. The way you want to see Kratos, into the savior of the world." Because, like, if you played the Greek saga, you will notice that in the Greek saga, Kratos basically destroys the world, destroys all existence, because like all the gods are connected to elements of the existence. And then Kratos, by destroying them, he actually destroys the world. Um, and in this one, in God of War Ragnarok, Kratos actually saves the world, right? Saves the world by a bunch of contrivances in the game. The game actually gives you prophecies that talk about Ragnarok, prophecies that talk about characters dying. And the funny thing is that nothing comes true. I mean, the character that was supposed to die according to the prophecies doesn't die. And the Ragnarok, which is supposed to be like the end of all life, according to Norse mythology, uh, only destroys Asgard conveniently for the sake of the script of this game. Which are this is actually my first complaint regarding the writing of this game. I mean, the prophecies, you cannot believe the prophecies, right? Anyways. Which makes me quite skeptical about that last prophecy that Kratos sees, the last panel that Kratos opens, and he sees himself as being a worship god, a worship peaceful god or something like that. It's not going to happen because you can't believe prophecies in this game. The second thing, the second element, I think, that comes from a very poor writing, poor writing from Netflix writings and these post-modern approach to media, is is basically the one of the cringiest scenes in the game, which is when the boy picks up a flower and he offers it to please Angrboda. And then Angrboda says, "So you've killed this flower to please me?" That is obviously, as you guys all know, and this is going to be controversial to say. I know you guys are going to give me a bunch of hate if you find this video, if you watch this video up to this point. I'm not against the flowers, okay? I'm not against nature or anything. I'm not a supporter of destroying nature, not at all. However, the scene actually felt like, hey, let's please the environmental activists, you know, which is like another trend of current media, you know, any movies or shows or even games that are produced. We also got the most boring stuff in a God of War game. I mean, we have a God of War game in which we spend 2 hours riding an animal and collecting fruit. Jeez, man. That is just awful. Awful, awful, awful. And let's not get into it in Norse mythology, for example, which is the widest place on the Earth, where we got the introduction of a couple black characters. Nothing against black characters per se, but you know, it just feels inconsistent with the fact that Norse mythology is basically white. And that's, you know, the Norse countries are basically white and, you know, the whitest place on Earth. We also have a few elements that make this game particularly cringy, which is another one that's like you get a God of War game in which Kratos makes friends with a squirrel and decides to go on fetch quests for him. You know, and I asked myself, I said, what the hell have they done to Kratos now? You know, and that takes me back to God of War 1, in which he was pissed off that he was running errands for the gods, right? And he was pretty sick and tired. He decided to pursue Ares so as to kill Ares and finally get rid of his nightmares. But then he was pissed off, and then in this game he makes friends with a squirrel, and he decides to run errands for a squirrel, a talking squirrel. This is unbelievable. Not to mention that every person that comes to him, and this is my criticism on this type of game, because personally I would prefer like a linear experience rather than this open world kind of thing, or this semi-open world experience in which you find characters and the characters tell you to go fetch something or go kill someone or some monster or whatever. And then you're gonna get a reward or something like that. I'm just not a fan of this type of stuff, and it goes against the character of Kratos, in which he was pissed off. He was working for the gods. So now you make this guy. Now you get to make Kratos become an errand boy again. You know, it doesn't make any sense. So he gets old, he gets sad, he gets mopey, he regrets killing the gods. And then all of a sudden he becomes an errand boy again. It doesn't make any sense. Something else that bothered me about the story in this game is how they actually, although it was interesting to see Odin as a mild-mannered, soft-spoken villain. There's a certain there's something that makes me quite uncomfortable, as I have noticed this in TV shows, and I've noticed it in the game itself. As much is spoken about how villainous Odin is, but not much is shown. You only see that Odin is a villain right by the end when he kills Thor, and when he decides to actually kill Kratos himself. But much of it, and much of what Odin is to Kratos, or becomes to Kratos in this game, is done off screen. I mean, it comes from the reports of people in the game itself, in which they say, "Oh, Odin has destroyed this. Odin has done that. Odin has killed, X person or Y person, whatever." But then you never see Odin doing anything, and they're always talking about the world being needing rebuilding. And then as you move around the realms, you don't see any rebuilding, necessity, so to speak. You don't see anything like, okay, the world is in a terrible state of misery and pain, and then you don't see it. You just see like the world is okay, or seems okay, and people are living in it, and that's pretty much it. Or at least some of the world, they're actually empty. They're only enemies, I guess. But it seems like it is that trend that you basically tell but you don't show, right? So that kind of makes it hard for me to actually picture Odin as a villain and say, oh, okay, this guy's an asshole or stuff like that. It just doesn't sink in, at least not to me as a player. The other aspect is that, like, if you think of it, Odin is made an enemy to Kratos just through the reports of everybody else. He does not want to go to war. He does not want to fight Odin. He does not see Odin as an enemy. It's like Kratos is accepting everything that people tell him. It's basically like it's funny how Kratos is supposed to be this guy who is able to make decisions for himself, right? But he doesn't do anything other than what people tell him to do. So he's an errand boy once again. Hey, we want you to kill Odin. Okay, come on, let's kill Odin, because Odin is bad, Odin is this, that. Let's kill Odin. So he's basically just an errand boy. And he does the same for his son. His son seems to make all the most stupid decisions ever, pursuing what he thinks is going to tell him who he is, right? He gets Kratos in a bunch of messy situations, such as when Atreus actually frees Garm the dog, and Kratos just goes along for the ride. He just goes along for the ride, which to me, it seems that Kratos has gotten older and he's lost his personality, right? And he's completely and emotionally linked to Atreus. Atreus has completely emotional domination over Kratos, I guess. That's why, for example, Kratos comes up with one of the cringiest lines ever at the end of the game, in which he stops the fight and tells Thor, that they need to stop fighting because they've got to be better for their children. For God's sake, man. When I heard that, I was like, oh, I can't believe he said that. I can't believe they made Kratos and Thor like two of the greatest badasses to ever grace mythology or video games, so to speak. To just to stop and have some philosophical debate over, hey, we gotta be better people, We can't use violence anymore. We gotta be better people. That was just that was just cringy as fuck. Which leads me to another cliche that's quite common, which is, in order to humanize Thor, they made him have daddy issues. So, okay, bullying coming from your father, and let's give it to Thor. How nice. How just relatable. How just relatable. This whole game seems like, and let me not forget that Atreus does not find who he is, because like at the end of the game he leaves with Angrboda to find other giants so he can pursue whatever origins he's got. So expect another game by Sony with the character of Atreus, in which he tries to find himself. So the guy has had like a couple of games to find himself, and he still hasn't been able to tell or to say whatever it is that he is. Kratos, on the other hand, looks sad. He takes a step back from whatever development he had as a character, to become what people today think is evolution. That's when you get old, you regret whatever decisions you made in the past, and then you're not able to live with yourself, and you're wiser and you're calmer, and stuff like that. And that would be very beautiful. I gotta say, that would be very beautiful if Kratos actually decided to resent all of his violent ways, if this was like an animation, for instance, and not a video game. Because think about how incoherent it is to have a character whine about how violence is bad throughout the entire game, and then rip his enemies to shreds, while fighting. It's just not coherent. It's just not coherent. And it pissed me off to play the game, see that the guy was fighting violently. And then all of a sudden, whenever we had a CGI cutscene, he would mope about it, and he would complain about it, and say, "Hey, we don't want to do that. We don't want to go to war. We don't want to kill anyone." For fuck's sakes, Kratos, make up your mind, dude. Either you go to a psychologist's office and you sit down and you lie down on the couch and then tell the psychologist about your life and get some sort of psychological relief, or you get out there and fight, right? Or if you want to be a peaceful person and live your own life, why the hell do you leave your house? Just stay in your house. Don't let anybody in. That's it. and everybody says that this game is supposed to be relatable. That this game is supposed to be, let me see, a reflection of reality. I have a different opinion. I think games is supposed to be escapism. I think games is supposed to be fun. I think games are not necessarily supposed to reflect reality as we know. I remember reading a Facebook post from a guy saying that this is the game he wanted his children to play because it taught them values and morals. And I was like, dude, maybe you got the wrong idea, and you should be the one teaching your kid values and morals instead of a video game. Video games are forms of art, and if we want, or if we feel good about like having a game in which a character pretty much kills everybody and acts on revenge and selfish feelings alone, let him do it. If he destroyed the whole Greek mythology, right, and the world in that sense, and they sent him to Midgard, he could have done the same to the Norse mythology as well. They could have like a different story or something like that, or have another reason for him to go against the gods, and have this game be epic and fun like all the other games have been. Because this is art, right? And you don't necessarily need, I don't necessarily need Kratos to be a role model. I don't need Kratos to be a role model for myself. I don't need Kratos to be a role model for my kid. But this is basically what people expect. So you get these games that are like supposed to reflect reality. And for God's sakes, we just want to have fun. And this is part of what I think, but this is part of why I think that games are actually in a slump lately, or they have been in a slump lately, because games are just not fun, right? And to top this off, let's talk about the adaptation by Amazon. Amazon has decided, that has confirmed that they're going to do an adaptation of God of War, and they're going to base their show on the Norse part of the saga, which is, to me, honestly, that's going to be the easy way to go, and the easy way to go to give writers who are not as competent as they could be, or as they should be, an easy way to adapt the material, which is lots of talk. A few flashbacks into the Greek era, just to give people the action that they crave. We're going to have another Viking-like show, right, which has been done before, like plenty of times. We have seen this before, and it's not going to change. And we're going to have pretty much the same kind of characters we've had and we've seen in postmodern shows for at least for the last 5 years, which are characters in evolution, but they're normally depressed or resentful, or they're trying to learn, they're trying to teach the young people not to be like themselves and completely, let's say, ignore any kind of ancient behavior, or learn lessons from their past, or whatever it is. It's basically like the idea of evolution that kids nowadays have, and that they absolutely accept no other opinions on, or no opposing opinion, so to speak. And that's where Kratos is heading. I mean, they could have, they could explore the Greek saga. They could explore Greece. They could make like this hell of a great Greek show, or a Greek-based show. But they're gonna go with the Norse saga. And to be honest with you guys, I'm disappointed. I was disappointed in this game. I'm happy that I sold my physical copy. I don't want to play this game. I did not like the ending. I did not like the way they treated Kratos as a character. I did not like the way they showed Ragnarok, which is like this. They hyped Ragnarok as this great battle, but in the end, it was lackluster. Uh, I don't like the fact that Kratos stops in the middle of Ragnarok to give his son a pep talk and say, "Hey, you've got to open your heart to whatever people are feeling." For God's sake, man, this is so. Um, this is so teenagerish, you know. This is so post-modern teenage writing, you know, or is it too much just to ask for some violent fun? I mean, I was just playing a game called Evil West today, and it's the shallowest. It's probably like the most shallow game I've ever played. It's got like a shallow story with lots of violence, lots of punching and kicking and blood, and it's just fun. It's just fun. So I guess in the end, what we learn from this is, can they make AAA games fun again? Let's see. Anyways, it's good to get this off my chest. I'm finally at peace now, and I hope that I can get with this video. I hope that I can get at least some support, you know, of some people who actually think that games are supposed to be fun and escapism. And if you hate my views, if you hate whatever it is that you know, whatever words I've said, sorry. You know, it was unintentional. It was just something to express how disappointing the story of God of War Ragnarok really was. And to actually have a balance, because there's a bunch of people saying that the story was fantastic, the story was amazing and stuff. I mean, we've got to have just as many videos saying that the story was bad to make sure that there is a certain balance to the force, right? And this is it. This is the last time we talked about God of War Ragnarok. Thank you very much for watching this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.